that can present a good opportunity for you guys, Delanian wrote in one email to a CIA press officer, explaining that what he intended to report would be, quote, reassuring to the public, meaning, oh, it's okay, public, lemmings out there. These drone strikes of American citizens, they're necessary for the good of the community, meaning it's good for the Biden criminal syndicate and the Obama criminal syndicate as we slaughter Americans. Right? Sorry? Yeah, you can ask, absolutely. So, I continue. Please don't interrupt me again, okay? Because I'm in the middle of a street. Explaining that what he intended to report would be reassuring to the public about CIA drone strikes according to The Intercept. I just had to repeat that because I was interrupted. In another exchange, the website reported Delanian sent a full draft of an unpublished report about drone strikes along with the subject line, "Does this look better, sir, ma'am?" In another, he directly asks the agency officer, "You wouldn't put out disinformation on this, would you?" Wait a second. In another, he directly asks the agency officer, "You wouldn't put out disinformation on this, would you?" Huh. Why would you even need to ask that? It looks like disinformation was put out. And when did it stop? Who knows? We're here to expose it.
Yeah.
David Lauder, chief of the Tribune Washington Bureau, said the email suggests a possible violation of Tribune news policy. "We have a very clear rule that has been in place for quite a few years that tells reporters not to share copies of stories outside the newsroom," Lauder said. "I'm disappointed that the emails indicate that Ken Delanian may have violated that rule.
Yes.
I'm hoping he shows up so we can ask him questions about it. We don't have reason to believe that any of the stories we published were in any way inaccurate," Lauder added. Delanian left Tribune in May to join the abhorrent press. Some people pronounce Associated Press. And the emails released by the CIA cover only a few months of his tenure with the Tribune, The Intercept said. Paul Colford, director of media relations for the AP, Abhorrent Press, said, quote, "We were satisfied that any pre-publication exchanges that Ken had with the CIA before joining AP were in pursuit of accuracy in his reporting on intelligence matters." Well, guess what? You're not going to be the only judge of that, Mr. Paul Colford. America will be the judge of that.
Yes.
Delanian declined to comment. So usually when you decline to comment, what does that mean, America? Well, we're going to afford him another opportunity to comment if he shows up today, or if he shows up in Maryland
for the
on
Bolton
Friday.
hearing.
Greenwald is a former reporter for The Guardian who has reported extensively on national security issues. He co-founded The Intercept in part as a means of reporting on documents uncovered by former National Security Agency contractor Eddie Snowden. Okay, that's one article. Now the next one's from September 4th of 2014 from Politico. Okay? Some people pronounce Politico, but Politico. Ken Delanian sent CIA drafts of stories. Ken Delanian routinely sent drafts of his stories to and closely worked with members of the CIA press office prior to publication while he was a reporter at the Los Angeles Times. The Intercept reports, according to documents obtained through a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act, submitted by The Intercept, the CIA at some points managed to convince Delanian to make changes in stories. Quote, "I'm working on a story about congressional oversight of drone strikes that can present a good opportunity for you guys," Delanian wrote in one email to a CIA press officer, explaining that what he intended to report would be reassuring to the public about CIA drone strikes. I'm repeating, but this is key. In another, after a series of back-and-forth emails about a pending story on CIA operations in Yemen, he sent a full draft of an unpublished report along with the subject line, "Does this look better?" Like a lapdog would. Wow. "Sir, ma'am, does this look better? Will you laud me? Will you pat me on the back as a good little CIA
He's compromised,
surrogate?"
big time compromised.
In another, he directly asks the flag, "You wouldn't put out disinformation on this now, would you?" All right, Delanian, who was hired by the AP as an intel reporter in May, told The Intercept he shouldn't have done it. Oh, he shouldn't have done it, he says, and I wouldn't do it now. Oh, really? We're supposed to believe that? Well, let's ask Ken Delanian directly when he shows up. Hopefully we'll have that opportunity. The Intercept also got a comment from LA Times Deputy Bureau Chief Bob Drogan, who said he had been unaware that Delanian had sent story drafts to the CIA and would have not allowed him to do it, though he called Delanian a, quote, diligent reporter. He said it's not appropriate to share story drafts.
With
Not
the
appropriate.
CIA.
I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think it's appropriate for a reporter to go ahead and check with his handlers at the CIA to make sure that his draft information... So it begs the following question. How many of our mainstream disinformation purveyors out here, whether it's from the New Woke Slimes, the Huffington Compost, the Washington Compost, the Politicos of the
Communist
world,
News Network,
the Criminal News Network, and MSLSD, how many of those do you think are
live with the CIA deep state?
are working with the deep state, the CIA, and the FBI in order to promote their narratives? Do you think it's 100% or less? Let us know.
We got over 1,000 watchers now. Over 1,000.
Ooh. Okay, we got another one. This is from the LA Times, I believe. December 6th of 2017. Oh, this is even earlier. No, this is, excuse me, later. Years later. Recently released emails indicate that prominent national security reporter Ken Delanian, formerly with the LA Times, currently with the Abhorrent Press, and from 2007, Philadelphia Inquirer, shared stories prior to publication with the CIA press office seeking their approval, according to a story up on the Intercept. Wow. So it goes into a lot of detail here. On at least one occasion, he rewrote a lead as per their dictates. He also reported as fact in the pages of the LA Times a CIA claim that there was no collateral murder in a 2012 drone strike on Al-Qaeda leader Abu Yahya al-Libi. An Amnesty International report disputes that sanitized version of events, citing eyewitnesses that claim upwards of 15 people, including Afghan tribesmen unaffiliated with Al-Qaeda, were killed in the drone strike. Obviously, a drone strike that only kills the bad guys is much more palatable to the American people than a drone strike that kills 15. Way more palatable. So if we were to go back to the initial article that I was just referring to, didn't Delanian say that I'm working on a story about congressional oversight of drone strikes that can present a good opportunity for you guys? He wants to write it in a way that's, quote, reassuring to the public, meaning he wants to reassure the public that there was no collateral damage of 15 people. It was only surgically struck on the Al-Qaeda target.
Wow.
Sounds similar to the DNA mutilation injections, right? Or people that said, oh, the masks are going to save you, right? From the, like, as long as you're eating, the coronavirus is never going to get to you. But when you're not eating, you have to cover your face. I mean, what's that phrase? Logic does not really enter into the conversation, does it? Okay, there's no telling here. Oh, wait, I missed the part here. Obviously, a drone strike that only kills one, but that's not journalism. That's propaganda. Yeah, exactly. That is propaganda. There's no telling how much of his national security reporting was compromised by the CIA press office. I say again, there is no telling how much Kenneth Delanian's national security reporting was compromised by the Central Intelligence Agency press office. Or for how long? Because the emails only cover a few months in 2012. The emails were released by the CIA as per FOIA requests by the Intercept. Delanian acknowledges sending stories to the CIA prior to publication and now says it was wrong. It was also a violation of LA Times ethical guidelines. There's 3, 4. I mean, I think you guys get the point. I don't need to read through another
Keep it going.
list of newspaper clippings and articles. You want me to keep it going?
Yeah.
Just for a little bit longer? Okay. This is the, let's actually go back to the Intercept now. I'm going to go into detail. September 4th, 2014, 11 years ago, and 2 months ago. The CIA mop-up man, LA Times reporter, cleared same quote, right? He said, "Oh, does this look better?" And another, he directly asked the flag, "You wouldn't put out this information, would you?" Here's the actual email. Let's read the actual email. You can zoom in right now. From Ken Delaney, Tuesday, March 6, 2012, 11:48 a.m. What can you tell me about this? Okay, thanks. And you wouldn't put out disinformation on this, would you? If it was true and you didn't want to confirm it, you'd say no comment. I ask only because covert operations are supposed to be deniable, right? And then guess what? The response is redacted by the media spokesperson in the CIA Office of Public Affairs.
Wow, that's the handler. That's the main handler right there.
That's the handler
Maybe
right
still to this day.
I wonder if
Of course, the
CIA
name's not.
director
The name's not there.
was involved in that. All right. Delaney's emails were included in hundreds of pages of documents the CIA turned over in response to 2 FOIA requests seeking records on the agency's interactions with reporters. With reporters, plural. So Ken Delaney is not the only one. They include email exchanges with reporters. Oh, email exchanges with reporters from the Associated Press.
Wow.
Abhorrent Press, Washington Compost, New Woke Slimes, Wall Street Journal, and other outlets. In addition to Delaney's deferential relationship with the CIA's press handler, the documents show that the agency regularly invites journalists to its McLean, Virginia headquarters for briefings and other events.
Wow.
Other events?
What other events?
What other events? What's the name of that island?
Little St. James.
Little St. James events? You ask? Well, let's ask Kenneth Delaney when he gets here.
And maybe he's visited Little St. James Island, that
Is he an
MSDNC reporter. Maybe. That fake
Reporters
news purveyor.
who have addressed the CIA include the Washington Compost's David Ignatius, the former ombudsman for the New Woke Slimes, National Poison Radio, and Washington Compost, as well as Faux News' Brett Baer,
What?
Ron Williams,
Brett Baer,
and
too?
Catherine Herridge. Oh, Catherine Herridge.
Catherine Herridge.
Delaney left the Slimes to join the Abhorrent Press last
10
May,
a.m. 10 a.m.
and the emails released by the CIA only cover a few months. Is it 10 a.m. right now?
Maybe it's 11 a.m. for his Henry. It's going late, it seems like. He may sneak underground if he shows up and go into the courthouse underground and evade all these fake news people. And Ivan the Great, the deep state marauder. But we'll see. Maybe.
All right.
We'll get a taste.
Good answer. I'll continue. So, and the emails released by the CIA only cover a few months of his tenure at the Slimes. They show that in June of 2012, shortly after 26 members of Congress wrote a letter to President Barry Hussein saying they were deeply concerned about the drone program, Delaney approached the agency about a story that he pitched as a good opportunity for the government.
Oh my gosh, what a joke, Delaney.
The letter from lawmakers, which was sent in the wake of a flurry of drone strikes by John Brennan and Barry Hussein that had reportedly killed dozens of civilians, suggested there was no meaningful congressional oversight of the program. But Delaney wrote that he had been told differently by people, quote, told differently by people I trust, close quote.
What a joke.
He added, not only would such a story be reassuring to the public, I would think, but it would also be an opportunity to explore the misinformation about strikes that sometimes comes out of local media reports. It's one thing for you to say 3 killed instead of 50, and it's another for congressional aides from both parties to back you up. Part of what the story will do, if you can help me bring it to fruition, is to quote congressional officials saying that great care is taken to avoid collateral damage and that the reports of widespread civilian casualties are simply wrong. Of course, journalists routinely curry favor with government sources and others by falsely suggesting that they intend to amplify the official point of view. Just total liars, right? But the emails show that Delaney really meant it. Over the next 2 weeks, he sent additional emails requesting assistance and information from the agency, meaning the CIA.
Wow.
In one, he suggested that a New America Foundation report alleging that drone attacks had killed many civilians was exaggerated, writing that the report was all wrong. Correct? So how many times did these guys get it wrong? On purpose? Every single time, Fred.
Jan 6, they were wrong.
A
The
number
COVID
of
jabs,
early
they were
news
wrong.
accounts reported that more than a dozen people died on June 4th of 2012. But June 20th email to the CIA, Delaney shared a sentence from the story photograph asserting that Al-Libi had died alone instead of the over a dozen.
They lied about Osama bin Laden dying. He died way before it was announced.
And he says, quote, "Would you quibble with this?" unquote. He asked his CIA handler, press officer. Yeah, there's more. More emails in this story. You can look this story up on your own. This is publicly out there. But I just wanted to highlight just some things that we've identified about the unsavory and salacious and deceiving nature
Of just one fake
of
news.
Kenneth Delanian, who's only one of
many.
your fake news reporters.
Look at that guy.
Remember-
You wouldn't trust that with any child.
Remember-
that creature, huh?
Remember
You were
when
saying.
Chucky Schumer said on what's her name or what's his name? MSLD. He is
Rachel
one-
Maddow?
Yeah, Rachel Maddow. So when Chucky Boy Schumer was on Rachel Madcow's show, was it Rick Madcow?
He's a guy.
Yeah. So anyway, on Rick Madcow's show,
Unbelievable.
Chucky Boy Schumer said they have 6 ways from Sunday at getting back at you
Oh, yeah, there
when
we go.
referring to the intelligence community.
With that demonic smile.
And one of those 6 ways is through their surrogates, similar as exhibited by these articles of Kenneth Delanian, who continues to flourish within the mainstream disinformation media complex here in the District of Columbia and at times in the DMV,
And both Ivan and
Maryland and Virginia.
both
And
Ivan
we're
and
just
I-
here to educate and amplify society of what goes on a daily basis as just but one example of the MSLSD Kenneth Delanians of the world of the one of 6 ways to Sunday. But keep in mind, I used to teach intelligence in the intelligence community, and guess what? I taught all 6 ways. And that's why I can identify who some of my pupils may have been.
And Ivan and I both have fake news articles about us right now that you can find on Google. So we're victims ourselves of it. We've been
I
lied
can
about.
never be a victim. You can always attempt to insult me, but that's about as far as you're going to go.
Oh, yeah, we're not victims then. That's good.
Let's go ahead and see if,
We're persecuted warriors for
since
Christ.
we've kind of covered that,
patriots.
and it's a little,
God's U.S.
it's
Republic.
kind of quiet here. Let's go ahead and talk to the green frog that just transitioned to be a pink frog. We saw this pink frog yesterday. Remember? The pink frog was over at the, maybe people see the period of
being persecuted today,
Snuck in
Lily?
on the ground?
Who's being persecuted today?
Give us everything you know, sir. Everything. War, no war here, boy. These fake news people behind us, wow, CIA. Compartmentalized. All right. Hold up. Ivan's like a freaking star in the dark. Is there a way we can get underground away from somewhere and come into it?
We can go inside, but we'll have to leave our devices out there.
We can't bring a cell phone in and record inside the courthouse with the show.
Yeah, it's kind of calm out here. That's Alexandria. Alexandria's got a Masonic stronghold, so there's a lot of shifty stuff going on.
Let's go this way, see what's out here.
Alexandria is a
We'll just wait for
place to
Abby
some.
Lowell to come out.
that's okay. I don't think they'll be coming out anytime soon.
good. I'm good. I'm gonna. What time?
I'll look into it. I'm not.
It's kind of a key case. It has way more
Sorry, we're already here. It's a shame. We really wish we could share this spot with you, but unfortunately, we're live streaming now.
We've been live
We're on
streaming.
TikTok live, so we
Check
ran.
it out. I actually don't
That's on me. Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Kind of hot mic out all over.
True.
These are guests.
Yeah.
The United Kingdom.
Turn around and interview.
Totally supposed to be here. Hey, you felt left out?
Yeah, probably. Literally.
When's your NASCAR deal? Have you already? That's right on the corner. He does NASCAR. He leaves us for like 8
I
months.
know. It's so it's cool.
Oh, okay.
They're definitely. People brag about that.
How much is that? DOJ and FBI.
beanie, sir. It's a little cold, huh?
You think I got my
Or a little
beanie
earmuffs.
on? 180s, these 180s.
Ooh, look at that. He's eyeballing it. And
Watch
you.
it back. We're
because Mr. FBI is James Comey. And James Comey wrote in his book, A Higher Loyalty, that Black Lives Matter and Blue Lives Matter are useful for society. Because they did so, because he did so, it made it clear that by Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the U.S. Constitution, I have exclusive rights. That means even this court case that I have here cannot be dismissed. It means that I have the total right worldwide to control all of the money collected, all of the money collectors, and people who use the work with permission, and those who use it without are called pirates. I need to make sure it's clear that whoever this person is in this frog uniform is now noted as an FBI witness harasser. She has harassed an FBI witness, and because of it, she will, thank you. I see you're streaming live, so I'm going to go over to where my sign was, but I just want to make sure it's clear. Last time, I made it clear, I just wanted to make sure it was clear. It's $1 trillion per story. If you defame or libel, it has to be clear. You cannot use Black Lives Matter, White Lives
Senator from Texas.
Mr. President, are we in a quorum call?
We are not.
It has been a little over a year since President Trump was elected in his second term of office. The key part of the campaign and mandate was to secure the border and to reverse the disastrous open border policies of the Biden administration. Now, as we see, President Trump is delivering on that campaign promise by implementing the very policies that the American people voted for, not to mention the fact that these policies and these laws were passed by Congress and signed into law, and merely our law enforcement agencies are merely enforcing laws that Congress itself has passed. The president's doing this by securing the U.S.-Mexican border to prevent more illegal aliens from coming into the country and also removing illegal aliens who entered our country during President Biden's open border disaster. Aggressive immigration enforcement is not unprecedented. President Obama, who has been praised by the left for unifying the country, deported more than 2.5 million illegal immigrants, earning him the title Deporter-in-Chief. Democrats seem to have forgotten this data point, but I'm happy to remind them. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the progressive left in the Democratic Party these days has lost its mind in the face of enforcement of current immigration laws, again, which the American people voted for and Congress has passed. They haven't hesitated to spread misinformation and vilify the very men and women in law enforcement who are enforcing our immigration laws. But these groups have not stopped at spreading lies. They're actually inciting violent mobs to impede the enforcement of laws that Congress has passed. Inciting mob violence against any law enforcement officer is unacceptable, and those who do so have to be held accountable. For this reason, I'm holding a hearing as the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Immigration and Border Security to examine these unfounded attacks on our law enforcement agents. In particular, we'll consider what is unfolding in America's so-called sanctuary cities. Under President Biden, millions of unvetted illegal immigrants entered our country across the U.S.-Mexico border. These included criminal aliens, violent gang members, including MS-13 in Tren de Aragua, and individuals on the terror watch list. They came not just from Mexico or Central America, but from literally every corner of the world. And where did they go after they crossed the border? These individuals found refuge primarily in America's sanctuary cities, places like Los Angeles, Portland, and Chicago. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, there are currently 12 sanctuary states and more than 200 sanctuary cities in the United States. Many of these states and communities have passed laws that actually prevent local police officers from cooperating with federal law enforcement officers employed by ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. This means that in some instances, these local law enforcement officers can't share information about detained or incarcerated aliens or honor DHS, Department of Homeland Security, detainers placed on criminal aliens. So ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, has no alternative but to conduct raids on various sites to detain illegal aliens and then see that they are removed from the country. So just to explain that a minute, when an illegal alien is arrested and placed in a local jail, if local authorities are allowed to and do in fact cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, that transfer from the local jail to the immigration officials can occur in the jail. And ICE doesn't need to conduct dangerous raids in our communities in these sanctuary cities. But in the sanctuary cities, that's not possible. They have no alternative since there's no cooperation at the local level. So in those jurisdictions, in the so-called sanctuary cities, criminal aliens are released back into their communities and inevitably reoffend. That means commit other crimes rather than being detained by the Department of Homeland Security and allowing them to take custody. This practice not only defies common sense, it makes the role of immigration enforcement officers more difficult and in the end more painful for each of these communities. I would hope at least that some of my colleagues across the aisle would agree that criminal aliens should be detained and deported. I'm not sure they would agree with that. It seems by their conduct and by their votes, they are suggesting that illegal aliens have just as much right to be in the United States as you and me. So once these criminals are picked up off the streets and detained in jails, why wouldn't we want federal law enforcement officers with Immigration and Customs Enforcement to be able to accept them transferred from the jail authorities to ICE custody and then deported? Any alien who has already shown a complete disregard for the U.S. law should not be allowed to stay in the United States. Sanctuary cities instead have the practice of actually releasing these very people, sometimes dangerous people, who we all know should be first in line for deportation. ICE would not have to go into communities and find criminal aliens if elected officials and local governments would simply cooperate with federal law enforcement authorities. These cities could have facilitated enforcement the easy way, but instead chose the hard way. And instead of reporting this unfortunate reality, and truthfully, mainstream media outlets like CNN, MSNBC, and ABC have ignored the real harm that these criminal aliens have caused in these communities and instead directed their ire toward law enforcement. You know, this is sort of a manifestation of what used to be called the defund police movement, which has made so many communities in our states and nation unsafe. Because ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which are employed by the Department of Homeland Security, are federal law enforcement officials. And basically, when the mainstream media accuses them of what, in essence, is just doing their job, they are suggesting that the laws should not be enforced and that the fault, if there is fault, lies with the federal law enforcement officers that are simply doing their job as mandated by Congress. The mainstream media and Democratic elected officials have used incendiary rhetoric to fan the flames of public protests that are anything but, quote, mostly peaceful. The result has been widespread assault on our law enforcement officers. Protesters and criminal aliens have physically attacked them in some instances. They've rammed officers with vehicles, thrown tear gas, smoke grenades, rocks, and bottles, and even punched and shot at these law enforcement officers for simply doing their job. Left-wing protesters have laid down in the street in an attempt to prevent vehicles belonging to law enforcement from entering or leaving detention facilities and even slashed government vehicle tires, all in an effort to prevent ICE and Customs and Border Protection from doing their job. Officers have been pepper sprayed, choked, punched, and injured to the point of hospitalization in some cases. These individuals who seem to be celebrated and certainly given a lot of publicity in the mainstream media as if they were in the right, These groups have prevented the arrest and removal of criminals, documented criminals, including facilitating the escape, in one case, of a convicted child rapist who is now out there somewhere in the community at large. The Democratic Party claims to be the party of the people. But when it comes to protecting the American people from violent gangs like Tren de Aragua, pedophiles and rapists, they simply look the other way or claim that the fault lies with law enforcement, not people who've already violated our laws. Progressive activists have done everything they can imagine to impede immigration enforcement officers from carrying out their duty, including doxing them, putting their personal information on the web, and even making death threats. The left-wing media has been intent on giving this behavior a pass, but Senate Republicans will not give them a pass. So I encourage all of my colleagues and all my constituents back home in Texas to tune in to the hearing that we intend to have this afternoon in the Senate Judiciary Committee. In this hearing, we'll hear testimony from Sheriff Boyd, who will give an update on Texas's cooperation with immigration enforcement and how it protects their officers and local communities. Danielle Carter Walker will offer insight into how left-wing policies are failing Chicago residents and other Americans living in sanctuary cities. Amia Cathell, an investigative journalist from the Washington Examiner, will offer a journalist perspective on how left-wing groups are funding these protests against ICE. While the mainstream media apparently will stop at nothing to spread lies and vilify the very people who've sworn to uphold our laws, my Republican colleagues and I are not afraid to push back in order to let the American people know the truth. Mr. President, I yield the floor. I'd note the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Also Brooks.